Hello, Dense MC here with another Charlie's Angels summary and review. Broadcast on October 19th, 1977, Circus of Terror is the 7th episode of the second season. The Wednesday, October 12th time slot was preempted by ABC's The World Series Baseball, Los Angeles Dodgers vs. New York Yankees, which started at 8 p.m. When a circus is plagued by supposed accidents, the circus owner's son is fed up with his father's inability to seek help. The Angels investigate while hiding their work from the proud old-fashioned patriarch. Kelly becomes a motorcycle daredevil, with Boz as her manager, and Chris becomes a knife thrower's assistant target. Sabrina learns how to be a mime and falls for the charming son. This episode features James Darren as the circus owner's son, David Barzak, Charles Tyner as the master mime Anton Tarloff, Denny Miller as knife thrower Helmut Klaus, and Raymond Bieri as old-fashioned gypsy circus owner Janos Barzak. Also in this episode is Reed Morgan as henchman Otis, Tom Reese as henchman Reed, and 3'11" Paddy Maloney as Tinkle Bell. Interesting scene of the episode, when Bosley is trying to keep an eye on a pair of suspicious henchmen, he runs into Zobar the Disembodied Head's box. He looks around it to see it's empty inside, clearly some type of magic illusion. Zobar is played by Marvin Kaplan. Interesting dialogue of the episode comes from Bosley's first run-in with flirtatious little lady Tinkle Bell. Tinkle Bell asks, "You got a name?" And Boz answers, "Bosley, John Bosley." Tinkle Bell continues, "Bosley, John Bosley? Nice ring to it. Married?" And Boz responds, "Not lately." An odd, vague answer, seeing as in the first season's The Killing Kind, he was married, but now possibly divorced? Fun fact, this episode was actually filmed before episodes 1 through 6, meaning this was actually Cheryl Ladd's debut. Production filmed many of Chris' scenes separate from the others because they weren't sure whether Farrah Fawcett would return. This way, they could begin filming early and later insert whoever would play the third angel with minimal editing and refilming. The two henchmen, Reed and Otis, are shown right away causing problems when one of them shoots a trapeze performer's rope, putting him out of action. During David's explanation of his father's old-fashioned gypsy ways, he and Sabrina become romantically involved. The henchman's next act of terrorism is sabotaging Kelly's ramp when she tries to demonstrate her skills to a skeptical Janos. Kelly survives wiping out on her motorcycle, perhaps a continuity of skill sets from the first season's pilot episode. Her moniker is Go-Go Garrett, an allusion to Daredevil stuntman Evel Knievel and all the other real and fictitious clones of him that popped up in the 1970s. Bosley encounters a female little person who gains an instant crush on him. His response is vaguely dismissive dialogue, but not enough to dissuade her to leave him alone. I've always felt David Doyle's acting here portrayed a man more annoyed rather than disgusted, but I've also felt his dialogue was unnecessarily tactless. Anyway, somebody puts a snake in Sabrina's bed, and when Chris investigates, finds Janos and Helmut arguing in German. In a nice bit of actual detective work, she swipes Helmut's glass to check his fingerprints. When consulting with Kelly, they get locked in their tent while it gets put on fire. Janos and Helmut rip open the tent, free them, and put out the fire. After Bosley and the three angels convene to trade notes, they can only agree that the two henchmen are working for somebody else. Theories include David wanting to ruin the circus so he can sell it, and when Helmut's prints show he's using an alias, he becomes suspect too. Meanwhile, the henchmen aren't happy about Tarloff the mime escalating the dangers to a deadly degree, which wasn't in their agreement. Tarloff is a gypsy like Janos and blames him for the death of his niece, which occurred years ago. He argues that the three new hires must be investigators and should be eliminated before revenge can be exacted. One of the henchmen knocks out Helmut, puts on his costume, and lures Chris into a target training tent where he will throw a knife at her. This is the famous scene used in the new intro where Chris' eyes bug out as the knife lands a little too close to her head. She realizes that the man is not Helmut and runs away, and he gives chase with an axe, but is soon stopped by Bosley and the real Helmut. Getting the henchmen to confess, they rush over to Tarloff, practicing a clown mime routine with Sabrina. He swapped out prop swords with real ones for his duel act, but chickens out at the last minute. He confesses that Sabrina reminds him too much of his niece, and warns what the other henchman was ordered to do. Chris tackles the second henchman as he takes aim with a rifle on Kelly, completing her motorcycle jump. If you look carefully, just as she's about to land the jump, some dark belt-like object detaches from her waist. Pretty sure that's not part of the stunt. Janos gets in on the fight and stops the fleeing henchman. Everything concludes with the Angels, Bosley, and the circus staff having a banquet. Janos is saddened by Tarloff's behavior, but states that his niece's death really was just an accident. Usually there's some excuse to terminate a romantic fling at the end of an episode, but here Sabrina and David are still very much a thing. Janos also explains Helmut's alias. He is a refugee fleeing his oppressive country, but doesn't explain what they were arguing about. They pair off to dance, with Janos choosing Kelly due to his newfound respect for her, and David with Sabrina naturally. You'd think Chris would pair off with Helmut, but no, he goes off with a background member. That only leaves Bosley with Chris. Until Tinklebell walks up with a box to stand on, a suggestion Bosley only made in jest earlier, and he seems rather happy about the intrusion. This is a fun, straightforward mystery with every character being interesting, even the henchmen who, at first, balk at taking lives. This is one of my favorite episodes of Season 2, marked by my full acceptance of Chris being the new Angel, not even knowing it was actually her Charlie's Angels debut. Even my worry over Bosley's poor attitude at being hit on by a midget was erased by his happy response at the end. But if I have to critique it, it's barely a mystery, the stakes are rather low, and the bad guys aren't that intimidating. IMDb gave this episode a 7.6 out of 10, and I'll bump it up to an 8.0. It lacks a lot, but it's got that patented Charlie's Angels charm in spades. Good morning, Charlie.